Righty. This is Summer NAMM 2017 EnterTalk Radio here representing. This is Florentino, and we are all about the artist. And we are having an incredible artist here today. Good friend of ours, and a really good friend of one of our show hosts, Aaron A-Train Smith. What's up, A-Train? You got to get back. How's the A-Train going to be on a ship? You know what I'm saying?
He got asked to play drums on some cruise.
Yeah, with DC Talk folks. Yeah.
And he's out there with actually one of my closest friends, is another associate of Aaron's and mine, is a guy named Jimmy Abegg, who is one of my go-to guys when when I want to celebrate or when I want to cry. He's one of the guys.
Oh yeah. So. Jimmy's awesome, and of course, I didn't really mention your name yet, but I think everyone who's watching knows who you are. Phil Madeira, of the Emmylou Harris group, as well as countless others, and a recording artist in his own right. So, Phil, you have been doing this business for quite some time. Tell us, how'd you get your start?
Well, gosh, the first band I was in was up in Illinois with the guys, four other guys actually, and we were called Morning Glory. I was a drummer, and I was starting to write songs at that time, so I played a little piano.
Yeah.
And that was my first taste of traveling and playing. But then I went back to college and finished school and kind of gave up the dream. When I was in college, I met a guy named Phil Keaggy, who Phil is really well known in the Christian music business. Really wonderful guitar player, and so we met in 1973, which is remarkable, that long ago. And the day we met, he said, "Hey, I think we're going to be in a band together someday."
Oh man!
3 years later, he called me up and said, "Do you want to come play in my band?" And interestingly enough, that entailed becoming a part of the church that Phil was part of at the time, which was kind of a hippie. Let's just say it was a weird thing, and the downside of it was being part of that church. The upside of it was getting to play with an amazing player named Phil, and of course, we all grew up and found lives outside of that scene.
Yeah. Well, and that's a huge part of what's made your music. I know, your faith and your spirituality kind of started that whole thing off, and that's pretty much how you connect with Aaron. So we're going to bring Aaron back into this because Aaron also plays with a lot of Christian-oriented groups. Right. So let's jump to that. How'd you meet Aaron?
How'd I meet Aaron?
Yeah.
I was playing with Phil Keaggy, and we were at a thing called Cornerstone Festival. This would have been probably in the 80s, and he was playing in a band with another dear friend of mine named Michael Rowe, R-O-E.
Oh yeah, from the 77s, I think, right?
They were called the 77s, and man, I remember watching Aaron and thinking, I hated Christian music, to be honest with you. But these guys were something else.
Yeah, they weren't.
They
weren't
shouldn't
typical.
really have been in that world. They were just really. They really could have been players in the real world,
yeah.
And they just.
And they all were at one point, right?
I don't know about that, but anyway, that's where I met Aaron.
Yeah. Well, in fact, that's when I met Aaron. I met him in the 80s when, because I grew up in Sacramento where Warehouse Ministries were.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I grew up in Sacramento, and I would go out and see the 77s, and, I was this, 15 or 16-year-old kid and go up and say, "Hey, man, you guys are great." And I never knew he played with the Temptations, man. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Wasn't until later on I seen a Facebook post, and he's like, "Hey, this was me," a picture of him with his ID card with the Temptations. Like, that's so funny. But I remember him from Romeo Void first. That was the first one.
Wow, yeah. He's a, I don't know if we're close friends. But we are good friends.
Yeah.
And he's a beautiful cat. Beautiful cat.
Oh yeah, he is. So this is all about gear, and let's talk a little bit about gear. You play a number of different instruments, keyboards being your primary one. But tell us a little bit about your endorsers and who are you here to see today?
Well, today I will certainly visit my friend David Gartland over at Saga Music. When I started playing for Emmylou Harris, they gave me 2 beautiful acoustic guitars, Blue Ridge guitars.
Oh, wow, okay.
And in fact, I just literally this week, as you know, got home from a 6-week tour with Emmylou, and I used, I'm a vintage guitar nut. I have a pretty modest but cool collection of vintage guitars that I don't want to travel with.
Name a couple of those before we get back into Saga.
Well, I've got a 1950 0028 Martin and a 53 Southern Jumbo Gibson, a 51 CF100 Gibson. I've got a 62 Fender Stratocaster that used to belong to Mike Rowe.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I've got an old National guitar. Anyway, you don't want to travel with these expensive
No, you don't.
things. They're like heirlooms, and they're like investments, really. And so when I first started with Emmylou, I was playing a Gibson L1, and our fiddle player at the time was playing instruments that Saga makes, and he introduced me to David Gartland. The next thing I knew, I had a beautiful parlor guitar. I believe it's called the BR371, and then a really great 000 sized guitar, Eric Clapton size acoustic guitar, and that's what I mainly take out with Emmylou. If I'm traveling with Emmy, you're going to see me playing a Blue Ridge guitar.
Nice.
And they're great, man. I pull that thing out of the case; it is in tune. It's crazy.
The
case costs more than the guitar.
But it sounds wonderful. And that's what makes it. That's what makes it stick.
And then I probably should talk to someone at Yamaha.
Man, I just had Yamaha. I should introduce you.
Yeah, I saw that guy, but I thought I didn't want to make it about me. But so I use a Yamaha. I think it's called a P4. When I tour with Emmy, they've got a great piano. It's fairly lightweight.
Oh, nice.
Tour with that, 88 keys, and gives me the basics of what I need. And then who else? Shub capos and Hohner accordions. Gosh, man, Hohner has been incredible to me.
Yeah.
And so I play a beautiful Hohner accordion that they gave me probably 7 years ago. It's still just a monster. It's beautiful. And so I will greet these people, and then I play a Whitfield electric guitars, and I've already seen Charles. He makes incredible guitars. In fact, Red Dirt Boys, the band I'm in with Emmy, our other guitar player, Will Kimbrough, who's our main guitar player with Emmy, he plays the Whitfield guitars as well. So,
playing guitars and having this much experience in the business, you got a chance to talk with the foundation yesterday, the NAMM Foundation. You talked about with the NAMM Foundation yesterday,
yeah.
And you talked about education and the need for that. So, with that said, tell us a little bit about what your experience with that interview yesterday and
I had a great time talking with Mary. And really, she, our interview, just like the one I'm having with you right now, was just a natural conversation. And eventually, I brought it up. I brought up the fact that when I was a kid, I was in a high school in Barrington, Rhode Island, that had an amazing music department.
Yeah.
So I was a drummer. All I wanted to do back then, and I still actually want to do that, is play drums. I love playing drums.
Yamaha makes drums too.
Well, you know what? I'm a Ludwig. I play an old jazzette kit, just like Roy Haynes had. It's an 18-inch bass drum, small jazz kit. And one of these days, I'm just gonna take time and play jazz. But anyway, our high school band and choir program was fantastic. So I was in the symphonic band, the marching band, the jazz band, the chorus, and I was, because I was pretty good, I got to use those gifts in a very public way.
Yeah.
And that really gave me a taste for performance.
Yeah.
And it was great. It was real great.
Awesome. So, as we're about to close this segment out here, you've done so much. You've worked with some of the best and most incredible talent in the business. What would be a message to the people who are tuning in right now about NAMM, about music, and about education? What would you like them to what would you like them to leave with?
Well, I would think, you know, depending on your age, I mean, if you're a young person, I would say pay attention to your dreams. And if you're an older person like myself, and I'm still paying attention to my dreams, but I would just say, you know, be a part of another person's fulfillment in as much as you can. You know, if you can help someone fulfill their purpose for being here, that's pretty great, you know.
All right.
Yeah.
And then I want to close with this. We've talked before about your passion for sharing your wealth of knowledge and experience, and a little bit about the Nashville scene. And with that said, we might be doing a little radio something with you here in the future.
That's right.
Yeah. So I want to kind of plant that seed for people to know, and from that, you know. We'll share more with you folks out there, but I want to say thank you very much for being on EnterTalk Radio, Phil.
Florentino, thank you, man. It's really a pleasure.
You're, you know, nice to meet you in person here.
Yeah.
And you know, I encourage all the people to go to what's your URL?
It's Phil Madeira, PhilMadeira.net. PhilMadeira.net.
Awesome. Well, make sure you guys go there. This has been Florentino Buenaventura at the NAMM 2017 on EnterTalk Radio Network, and I want to make sure you guys tune in for more because we've got some great ones coming up. We got ESP guitars coming up very shortly.
Yep.